Hi, welcome back everybody. Today we're talking about how residential properties are assessed. PVAs or property assessors, every state calls us something different. In fact, we were known as tax commissioner in Kentucky up through the 70s. Assessors and fee appraisers both follow the same industry standards, even though there are a couple significant differences between the two professions. Appraisers usually have full access to the property, inside and out, and conduct a thorough and full appraisal, whereas an assessor, we only have a limited street view of the property with no inside inspections. Appraisers usually develop one appraisal at a time over a period of hours or days devoted to that one specific property, whereas assessors perform what's known as mass assessment on hundreds or thousands of properties at the same time with little or no focus on any one individual property. However, the methodologies are the same and defined by some of the same industry organizations. There are three generally accepted approaches to valuing property. First is the cost approach. How much does it cost, including the acquisition of the land, the building materials, labor, and profit margin for the developer to replace a property? This is only used for new construction, and for houses, I'll only use it while the house is under construction. Next is the income approach. Most commercial property is valued based on its income generating potential. This includes multifamily properties like apartments, which also reassessed this year. The amount collected in rents determines the value of those properties, and we can do a video on the income approach if you want. Let me know in the comments. Lastly, nearly all single-family residential property or houses are valued based on the sales approach or based on a property's comps. Comps is an abbreviation for comparable or comparable. Again, not identicals. The idea is we are looking for recent nearby sales that are close enough like your house that we can identify the differences and account for the value of those differences. So let's get into it. Okay, let's take a quick look at a comparable sales analysis from an actual appraisal. The idea here is you have a subject property, and that's your house, and then the appraiser is going to compare that to three recent sales, and those are the comps. Now, what makes those comps is that we're able to come up with a list of characteristics where we not only know where the subject and the comps differ with respect to that characteristic, but we also have a pretty good idea of how much that difference affects the value. So let's take a look at two really easy characteristics. We'll do the size of the lot, and we'll come down here and we'll take a look at the fireplaces. So keep in mind that when we make adjustments for these differences, we always apply that adjustment to the sale price of the comps. Sometimes the adjustments are added to the sale price, and sometimes we subtract them based on whether it's the subject property or the comps that are superior in that category. So for our lot size, the subject property is a little less than 2 acres. And comps 1 and 2, comp 1 is almost 10 acres and comp 2 is 10 acres. So the comps are actually superior to the subject property here. The appraiser has determined that the difference in land values is about $20,000 per acre. So we are subtracting about $160,000 from the sale price of comp 1 and about the same thing, maybe a little bit more, to the sale price of comp 2. And that accounts for about an 8-acre difference in the size of the lots between the subject and comps 1 and 2. But for comp 3, you'll notice that lot is only about 2/3 of an acre. So the subject is superior to comp 3, and we're going to add about $20,000 for the 1 acre difference. In our other example, down here on fireplaces, the subject property has 6 fireplaces, but each of the comps only have 3. So in that case, the subject property is superior, and in the appraiser's experience, a fireplace makes about a $5,000 difference. So we're adding $15,000 to the sale price for each of the 3 comps. In our example here, we would continue through the entire list, noting additions and subtractions for each of these characteristics, but let's just assume we determine comp 1 and our subject property are completely even on every other characteristic except the land and the fireplace. So we would take the $1,725,000 sale price, subtract about $160,000 for the difference in the land, and then add $15,000 for the fireplaces. And that would leave us with a theoretical opinion of value for the subject property of $1,580,000. And then we would continue that for the other comps and determine a weighted average, giving preference to the comps where you had to make the lowest gross adjustments. In this case, comp 3 had the least gross adjustments of $35,000 because there was $20,000 that we added for the difference in size of the lot, and then we added another $15,000 for the fireplaces for a gross adjustment of about $35,000. Compared to comps 1 and 2 that required about $175,000 in adjustment. So that's the down and dirty of a comp sales analysis and a fee appraisal, which is what most of you would likely to have seen a copy of at some point. So with all that in mind about how comps are typically dissected, let's go back and take a look at our comps from the assessment notice. So the first thing you'll probably notice is we use 5 comps instead of the 3 that you typically see on an appraisal. And I can tell you that comp number 1 is usually the most heavily weighted comp or the most preferred comp because it has fewer gross adjustments. Now, if you don't have your notice in front of you, refer back to the previous video where I'll walk you through finding a copy of the notice at fayettepva.com. So at the top of the property record page, you'll see under assessment notice a link to the 2025 assessment notice PDF. And there's a copy of it, and there's the comps. Or you can scroll down on the property record page on the website, and you'll find a list of the comps here, and they're nearly always the same comps listed here that are on the PDF. And in both cases, the PDF and on this comparable list, these are hyperlinks where you can click through and see the characteristics of the comps and compare them to your property. But a couple of points here. If you compare square footage, you have to also consider finished area in the basement because that is considered living area. Also keep in mind that dollars per square foot for a one-story house, all things being equal, is higher typically than the dollars per square foot for a two-story house. Okay, let's talk for a minute about how comps are selected. Here are some of the criteria. Number 1 consideration is the type of home. Is it a single-family detached or a house or a duplex or condo or townhouse? And then beyond that, is it a split foyer? We always strive to choose comps that are in the same neighborhood as the subject property, but if that's not possible, and that's the case sometimes if, say, for example, your house is significantly larger than the typical house in the neighborhood, we might have to go outside the neighborhood to find a comp. So if we do have to go outside the neighborhood, then we're looking to stay inside the same neighborhood group of similar neighborhoods. Then we try to match comps on square footage, number of stories, comparing 1 stories to 1 stories and 1.5 stories to 1.5 stories. We try to match on the subjective grade. And one point here is the amount that a comp increases your value is not a criteria at all. In fact, it's just the opposite. So remember what I said about gross adjustments. The greater the gross adjustment, the less we like the comp. We are never looking to favor a high comp. So in addition to the criteria we use for selecting the comps, here are a few more criteria that we use to make adjustments to the sale price, including bathroom counts, basements and basement living area, garages, carports, porches and patios, finished attic space and other non-compliant living area. Influence factors like, does the property back up to a railroad track or maybe New Circle Road, but they can also be positive influences like backing up to a park or to the Arboretum.
And then the subjective rating is a big one. It's referred to as the CDU, which stands for condition, desirability, and utility. Okay, let's talk about the CDUs because short of finding errors in the data like wrong square footage, bathroom counts, that type of thing, which you should be looking for when you review your own property record at fayettepva.com. Condition issue is where we are most likely to make a revision to your assessment during the protest. I'm sure most of you have seen PVA crew in your neighborhood. We visit every property in the county once every 4 years, and that's when we take the photos that you see on the website and the assessment notice. But that's also when the PVA assessor first develops a subjective opinion on your property's condition, desirability, and utility, or CDU. What we're looking for is how your house compares or deviates from what is typically expected to be seen in that neighborhood. And we're looking at things like architectural details. Are there keystones over the doors and windows? Multiple roof lines? What's the condition of the roof and the siding? Are the windows original or need replacing? Are there cracks in the foundation, etc.? The grade that the assessor gives your house based on this quick exterior review is assumed to also apply to the interior condition, and that's a big assumption, and we can't know that for sure without input from you. But we do have a great deal of confidence in the CDUs we apply to the comps because we review the MLS or the sales listings. We see interior photographs and we read property descriptions that include information about recent remodels or updates and premium features like marble, granite, and that type thing. So as part of your review, I encourage you to consider how the condition of your comps compares to your house. And I know it's not likely that you'll be able to find the MLS or the realtor listings for the comps months after the sale, but here's a tip I'll share with you. It's becoming more and more common for real estate listings to be shared across a multitude of national online real estate platforms like Zillow, and that listing usually remains in place long after the sale. And while I do not recommend these platforms for their value estimates, I do think they can be a really good resource for seeing inside houses and getting clues as to their condition. In addition to the obvious condition issues, windows, general curb appeal, etc., some of the big things to look for are how dated or updated are the kitchens and the bathrooms. And so why don't we take a look at a couple of quick examples. So here's a listing where on the left here, the bathroom has had a modest update, but the kitchen is still in its original condition, and this is an 80-year-old house. Here's a 70-year-old house where the kitchen and the bathrooms have had an update. They're not in their original condition, but the update is probably 30, 35 years ago or more. And then here is an example of an update to the kitchen that I would consider to be a little bit better than average. And then this is a nice one. This is a kitchen update that I would probably call good plus or very good. Most of us probably would not like to be compared to that kitchen. So you get the idea. Try to get a feel for how the condition of the comps compares to your house. And if you're not able to do that for the comps that are listed on your assessment notice, go back and review the previous video where I demonstrate how to search for sales, and perhaps you can identify your own set of comps. And we'll leave it there for today. This concludes the series on how to be better prepared and informed about your reassessment and a possible protest opportunity. If you decide to file the protest, please keep in mind about 27,000 other folks got the notice at the same time you did. So we strive for getting back to everybody within 24 hours, but this can be difficult in the first few days of the protest period, so please be patient. We will get back to you, I promise. And don't forget, Monday, May 19th is the deadline to file the protest, and I'll see you next time.